Okay, let's dive right in. Today, we're exploring one of the most enigmatic, unforgiving, and downright dangerous regions on the planet. I mean, it's a place that has completely captured the public's imagination for decades. It spawned wild folklore, chilling conspiracy theories, and some pretty intense scientific scrutiny. We're going to journey all the way from the supernatural myths surrounding this area, straight into the cold, hard, and sometimes heartbreaking facts. Welcome to our explainer on the mystery of the Alaska Triangle. Over 20,000. Just let that staggering number sink in for a second. Since the 1970s, more than 20,000 people have vanished without a single trace in this specific remote region. We're talking hikers, tourists, locals, even entire airplanes just disappearing. It's an incredibly high volume of loss, and honestly, it demands an explanation. To really wrap your head around this, you have to understand the sheer scale of the area. It is massive. It connects Anchorage, which is the state's largest city, to Juneau down in the southern panhandle, and then stretches all the way up to Barrow on the northern coast. Within this vast perimeter, the missing persons rate is more than twice the national average. It claims about 2,250 people every single year. Honestly, it completely dwarfs the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle, yet somehow it remains relatively unknown to a lot of people. So, to understand why this area became so legendary, we really have to look back at the pivotal moment when this unforgiving wilderness first captured the nation's attention. Which brings us to Section 1, the 1972 Catalyst, the flight that sparked a legend. Let's walk through the chilling timeline of this specific disappearance. Back in October 1972, a small private plane carrying U.S. House Majority Leader Hale Boggs, Congressman Begich, an aide, and their pilot vanished on a flight to Juneau. Now, because of the high-profile passengers, especially Boggs, who, had been on the Warren Commission investigating JFK's assassination, the response was totally unprecedented. For an entire month, an armada of 50 civilian planes and 40 military aircraft scoured 32,000 square miles. And the result? Absolutely zero answers. To this day, not a single piece of wreckage nor any trace of the men has ever been found. It's literally as if the sky just swallowed them whole. When you have nearly 100 aircraft searching an area and finding absolutely nothing, the human mind struggles to comprehend it. And well, when there's an absence of physical evidence, myths naturally breed to fill that void. Moving on to Section 2, Myths and Monsters. What exactly lurks in the triangle? You see, for the indigenous peoples of the region, this harsh wilderness has always held a deep spiritual and supernatural weight. Enter the Kushtaka, or the Kushtaka. According to Tlingit folklore, this is a legendary shape-shifting creature, often described as a land otter man. It's a deeply ingrained cultural legend, and lately it's become a pretty popular scapegoat in modern literary works, Netflix movies, and internet true crime lore. What's really fascinating here is the sheer duality of the Kushtaka myth. On one hand, you have this terrifying version, the cruel flesh shredder. Legend says it imitates the cry of a baby or a woman in distress to lure lost travelers to the river, only to, tear them apart. Yikes. But then there's a totally different interpretation, the friendly savior. In this version, the Kushtaka creates illusions of your loved ones to comfort you when you're freezing to death, and eventually saves your soul by transforming you into a fellow Kushtaka. Either way you look at it, this myth provides a supernatural narrative for why people wander off into the snow and just never return. But it's not just ancient folklore. Modern internet sleuths and paranormal researchers have thrown pretty much every sci-fi explanation possible at the Alaska Triangle. Some claim there are swirling energy vortexes that act as portals to another dimension, meaning the lost hikers aren't dead, they've just been teleported elsewhere. Others blame extraterrestrial abductions, or even unusual magnetic activity throwing off compasses and airplane instruments. All of these wild theories are really just attempting to answer that one lingering question. Why are the remains almost never found? So this brings us to a pivotal question for you. Looking at all of this, the missing politicians, the 20,000 vanished souls, the shape-shifting otters, the magnetic vortexes, are these disappearances truly paranormal? Or is there a much more sobering, geographic reality at play here? To figure this out, we really need to strip away the paranormal and take a hard look at the brutal, unforgiving environmental reality of Alaska. This leads us to Section 3, the geographical reality, nature's perfect burying ground. Once you actually look at the terrain, the mystery really starts to dissolve into profound physical danger. I mean, think about these environmental culprits. We are talking about massive, shifting glaciers that are quite literally covered in holes and deep hidden ice caves. The landscape is scarred with building-sized crevasses that can instantly swallow a downed aircraft or a wandering hiker. And even if a search party gets dispatched immediately, the heavy, year-round snowfall can rapidly blanket the area, erasing any trace of human activity within hours. Basically, nature has created the perfect burying ground. To really ground this in reality, let's look at the tragic case of Gary Frank Southerden. Gary went missing during a hunting trip way back in the 1970s. For decades, his fate was a complete unknown. He was just another statistic in the triangle. But then in 1997, a human skull was discovered along the Porcupine River. It actually took until 2022 for DNA analysis to finally identify that skull as Gary's. And the forensic evidence? Well, it showed he didn't fall into a vortex or get abducted by aliens. His demise was the tragic result of a fatal bear attack. It's a really stark reminder that the true monsters out here are often just the raw forces of nature. And that brings us to a highly respectful but absolutely necessary shift in our explainer. Because while the myths are fascinating, we have to remember that these numbers represent real people, shattered families, and ongoing tragedies, particularly for local and indigenous populations. Section 4. The human cost. The reality of Alaska's missing. We can anchor this sweeping mystery in actual present-day facts by looking at official data. For example, the Q1 2026 Alaska Department of Public Safety report on missing Alaska Natives and American Indians. By analyzing current data like this, we can move past the folklore and see what's actually happening on the ground today. The data from that Q1 report tells an incredibly clear story. When law enforcement categorizes the circumstances of these open missing persons cases, the vast, overwhelming majority of them fall under one specific category: the environment. The number of cases linked to the environment completely towers over cases deemed suspicious or not suspicious. This data sharply validates the geographical reality we were just talking about. It isn't foul play, and it isn't the supernatural claiming most of these lives, it's the land itself. But to truly humanize this data, we need to remember the actual names in the active database. People like Clinton Abarca, missing since 2007 due to the environment. Cassandra Boskovsky, missing since 2019 under suspicious circumstances. Frank Ahlstrom, missing since 1998, again, categorized under environment. These are just 3 names out of hundreds in this single quarterly report alone. It's crucial to honor and acknowledge the incredibly heavy toll this harsh landscape takes on indigenous and local communities every single day. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought. Our fascination with portals and monsters often masks the far more terrifying, quiet power of the untouched wilderness. The Alaska Triangle is a mystery, yes, absolutely. But perhaps the real mystery isn't how people vanish into thin air, but how we consistently underestimate the raw, unforgiving, and deadly reality of nature. Keep that in mind the next time you hear a spooky story about the Triangle. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, stay curious.